Lord Beith.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, deliberate fare dodging has no place on our railways and is being tackled, but it is also vital that passengers are treated fairly and consistently. We are urgently considering the helpful and comprehensive Office of Rail and Road report with its sensible recommendations and will respond to it as soon as possible. In the meantime, we continue to make it easier for passengers to buy the right fare, to make tickets on an increasingly unified publicly owned railway more inter-available, and to develop plans for Great British Railways to sell tickets online.
My Lords, the Minister knows that under the new East Coast mainline timetable, many more passengers will rely on connecting services run by different train operators. But when they board the train, as happens when they board a train now, they're quite likely to hear an announcement saying that other operators' tickets are not valid on this service and you may face a penalty fare of £100. And indeed the report to which my question refers revealed many, many instances of passengers who inadvertently had the wrong ticket but were penalised. Does he recognise that this is a mess? And has he got people at work in his department trying to sort it out?
Yeah.
The noble Lord knows, actually, I think about as much on about the East Coast mainline timetable in December as I do now, and I compliment him because he asked the flexible public sector operator to stop the 1900 Edinburgh from King's Cross at Berwick on a Monday to Friday, and they have agreed. I think that's a great thing. On a more general point, the announcements are confusing because the ticketing system is confusing. In the particular circumstances of the East Coast, where LNER have made arrangements for tickets to be inter-available so that passengers at stations like Berwick can enjoy a similar level of train service with a change that they do now, we will make sure that the announcements are clear enough that people aren't put off making the best journey.
The noble Lord will be aware that the first iteration of the timetable for the LNER services in question was withdrawn. As a result, the noble Lord Beith has identified that there are fewer direct services serving stations such as, I understand, Darlington, Northallerton and others, meaning that more changes are to be made. Is there a role for his department to ensure, particularly in the special anniversary for Darlington and Stockton line, that this could be revisited to ensure that the original direct services will be reinstated? The new East Coast mainline timetable includes several really big improvements, such as knocking over a quarter of an hour's time off the direct journey to Edinburgh and a service to Newcastle of 3 trains an hour, which is considerably in excess of that service on the Metropolitan line to Amersham. That's the objective of a railway timetable, which is to serve the biggest flows with the best train service. In respect of Darlington and Northallerton, the noble Baroness knows that in fact Darlington will have more through trains to London in December than it does now, as will Northallerton. Some of the other journeys will need a change, and the timetable is arranged to make the best of all those journeys whilst producing the benefits that I described.
My Lords, passengers are fed up with the complexity of rail fares and terms and conditions of tickets. So by when will passengers see a simpler, transparent new range of tickets ahead of Great British Railways coming into operation?
The noble Baroness is right to describe it as a mess, and we're not waiting for Great British Railways. The LNER's changes to long-distance fares, which have been introduced progressively, have resulted in considerably greater passenger satisfaction with the way in which the fares are arranged now compared with before, and I'm expecting to see similar arrangements on the West Coast Main Line and also on the Great Western in due course. And I think the noble Baroness knows that we're also rolling out pay-as-you-go in urban areas as well as in London and the South East. It's a long and complex job, and it's not helped by the fact that fundamentally the fare system hasn't changed since the railways were privatised, and we are on it and we are working hard at it.
My Lords, on the West Coast Main Line and on other routes, when Great British Railways actually happens, will it have control over the fares issued by open access operators, or will they still be able to charge what they like for their own services?
My noble friend, I feel probably knows the answer, but I'm happy to give it anyway, which is that open access operators can charge what they like, and no doubt will continue to do so.
My Lords, I'm sure this House will be reassured if the noble Lord the Minister himself is involved in these new practices. Can he give us an assurance that he is heavily involved, and secondly, that all of these new practices will mean less ticketless travel?
I think the long-term answer to that is that the railway deserves to be run by competent professional people, and actually that the involvement of ministers in decisions about timetables and fares outside North Korea is extremely unusual in world railways. I'm doing what I'm doing now because I think that changes need to be made, and we need to make them faster than we can bring in the legislation for Great British Railways. But in the long term, we should have the railways run by competent people to an overall government policy, and that's the government's aim and its mind too.
Concerning those changes, my Lords, the report referred to by the noble Lord Beef from the ORR, a highly respected regulator, is of course a valuable piece of work on behalf of passengers. Does the noble Lord accept that under the new arrangements for the railway consulted on by the government earlier this year, the ORR would lose those functions vindicating the rights of passengers to a toothless passenger watchdog, and that it would also be stripped of its independent decision-making powers as to who has access to the track and what charges they pay, and these decisions will be made by Great British Rail, an interested party? Isn't this regulatory vandalism on the railways?
Well, the noble Lord's got a point of view, hasn't he? But I don't agree with it. Of course, currently the ORR is independent. In the future, the government's proposals will leave it independent. It will have a slightly different role in respect of access. It will be an appeal body, because fundamentally somebody has to be in charge of the railway and somebody has to be in charge of the timetable. And he'll know, because we've discussed it here before, that actually it's mad that a government minister in the end has to decide to implement a railway timetable, because nobody in the railway itself has the authority to do so. He's also wrong about describing the new arrangements of passengers, and in due course he'll see that the Passenger Standards Authority will have real teeth and will represent passengers' interests.
My Lords, many stations don't seem to have properly functioning electronic gates, particularly at weekends, and people just walk through. So I wonder whether it's possible to do an audit of that. And while the noble Lord is improving the lot of travellers, could he do away with see it, sort it?
Well, ticketless travel is a real problem, and one of the reasons that operators have to be on their toes about it is that leaving gates are open at times when people travel and just walk through them. It's not necessarily the case that those passengers don't have tickets, but it's certainly no deterrent to people who don't have tickets. Say it sorted. Oh dear, I've said that now. Is actually a good deterrent, and we have to be mindful of the safety of people, including women and girls on the railway. We are going to refresh that, but I'm sorry to tell the noble Baroness that we're going to carry on doing it, because it's the right thing to do to make everybody feel safe travelling by train.
My Lord's Trainline tells me if I got the 15:16 train home to Cardiff from London Paddington this afternoon, I could save 5 pence by splitting my ticket. Yeah. Will the Minister's reforms, and will my noble friend's reforms, get rid of this sort of nonsense? Can he sort that?
Well, it needs to be sorted, and it will have to be sorted over time. I refer back to my experience at Transport for London, where we radically changed the fares system and introduced pay-as-you-go and Oyster, and it took several years of incremental change.
But fundamentally, the noble lord is right, which is that actually, if you've got enough time and effort, finding a cheaper way to travel through buying multiple tickets isn't the way in which you market an effective railway service or indeed public transport service, and we have to get to a stage where that nonsense is no longer prevalent.